What is in the K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack? Because it's got to be crack. Hello, and welcome to this episode of K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm glad that this film is out though, because it gives me something to obsess over, a hyperfixation, so they call it. I don't think hyperfixations are bad though. Hyperfixations are healthy. It's great to what's it called? Put your all into something to distract yourself from the mundane life. Do you know what I mean? Now, or you can be like, my head is not empty, it's full. And do you know what of? Rumi and Jinu edits. Yes. And also, like, TikTok and both YouTube, both at the exact same time. Both at the exact same time. Like, honestly, the engagement of this film, we're all being fed. The film, exactly, you watch it, it's like 1 hour and something long, that's over. But it's the aftermath that really stays with you. So the idea of going through endless edits on TikTok and also looking at people's reviews on YouTube and also more edits of just the entire film. We're going to touch on little bits here and there. There's just so much stuff anyways to unpack, really. Of course, I started with I already mentioned Rumi and Jinu. We'll get on to that a bit more later. Obviously, I just wanted to, kind of talk about just quickly, just like the fact that K-pop Demon Hunters has taken the world by storm. I even mentioned that actually in my own write-up about my watches for June. And I reflected because I was like, how is it that this film has been able to captivate an audience? It's reached so much ratings. And then also, it's got so much acclaim. People want sequels, people want series, people just want more. People just want things. We want them now, you know. I think that's what you feel, I guess, after finishing it in general. That's what I felt. You just feel like, wow. Like, not even, okay, bro, I was going to say, wow, that's it. Because no, it's not that's it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's it. Like, phrase is for films that obviously don't give you much. This film gave us a lot. Like, do you know what I mean? Although we want more, we can also say that this film did give us a lot, right? They gave us information. They gave us soundtrack. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like those two things are two big things. But obviously we do need more because there's obviously what's the word? There's loopholes. Loopholes and like the idea of when you reach the ending of a story, it's the idea of why people carry it on. Because do you know what I mean? There's more areas to clean up on, which is basically like Rumi's backstory. And then I guess Rumi's backstory and then the potential of Jenu coming back. And then I also think, do we also want to know more about Jenu? Maybe? I mean, I don't know. We do know that he kind of left his mother and brother in order to live a lavish life. Even though lots of people have been obviously looking at that storyline in different ways. I don't know. I mean, it looked like that's what happened because he said he left his mother and brother. But it was like, I guess sometimes when I was watching the edits, I was also like, oh, was he leaving them also to save them? Even though it looked like from his perspective that he left them really like just to leave them, you know, like honestly it's two different options, but I guess his one mainly is that he felt like, he was the villain. Like, he villainized himself. That's obviously he why he listened to Guima in his ear. Basically he listened to the demons because obviously he made himself the bad guy in his own story. So it's also like you don't really know if that's necessarily you don't know necessarily that's the true story or not. Do you know what I mean? I think it's easy to do that. I mean, I think it's easy to become the yeah, to become the bad guy in your own story. I think it's easy to do that if you feel like, that you've done something wrong or something like that. But anyways, as I said, I'm just glad for I'm just glad for the fact that this is something that I can obviously talk about and something that stays in my head and something that, I'm always going back to the soundtrack. I think it's, what it compares to is actually Hamilton, which is crazy. But like, because, the thing is, people don't stop talking about Hamilton. Do you get it? But it's the same thing. It's both Hamilton and K-pop Demon Hunters because it's like, they're over, but they're not over though. Like, everyone will be like, yeah, are you a K-pop? Are you a Hamilton fan? And you'll be like, am I a Hamilton fan? Means you would be like, am I a Nicki fan? But am I a Hamilton fan? Yes. But then it's just the same that if someone asks you, yeah, did you watch K-pop Demon Hunters? And you're like, yes. And you're going to start singing your idol or something. I don't even know. I already mentioned greats like Hamilton, right? And I'm telling you, it's on the same degree. And then also you can think of something like Sinners, okay? Cinema's doing really, really well right now, okay? I'll be honest. Cinema is doing very well. And that's why you have Sinners, you have K-pop Demon Hunters, and I'm just saying them two. So I spoke about Hamilton earlier, only a little bit, because obviously I'm a musical nerd. So sorry, I had to reference it. I had to put it in there, even if it's not, the topic of conversation. I feel like because it's a musical, I can do that. Less so with saying Sinners versus K-pop. I'm saying that they're both great because of how. Yeah, but about their scale. I'm talking about their scale and how both have received acclaim. Both, have immediately, they've been out for a little bit and they've already hit the market. They've both already created revenue. And that's all a film really wants. Do you know what I mean? You want that. Like, all a film really wants is for people to have, conversations about said film. Anyways, when I was listening back to this again, one thing I was thinking about Jinu's story again. I think in a way I would like them to go back to it again, like as in the next film. So K-pop Demon Hunters Part 2. I would like them to probably touch on Jinu's storyline again, just because I do feel like it could be interesting to know, because again, what my point was to do with is that people like to villainize themselves like in a story, and then he's trying to villainize himself because he became a demon. Do you know what I mean? So it's, I guess he's viewing it that way because it ended up him becoming a demon. But I kind of just thought to myself, like, when looking at the story, I was like, are you really a bad guy? Or like, do you know what I mean? I think what we can interpret it from it also is that Guimar took advantage of him, and then was whispering in his ear, and that's how he became a demon. I feel like that's what it was, it's the temptations. But then I think, obviously, the story was trying to explain to us that because he was living a life of leisure and he did a bad deed, that's how he became a demon. But it's weird because then you think about Rumi, right? And you think, why is it that Rumi has the patterns? She basically just has them because her dad was a demon, or probably. That's something we don't know. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'm just making that assumption. But we're saying she has those patterns because obviously she must have got them passed down to her genetically. Because we said, obviously, why else would she have them, type thing. Also what I also thought, like, obviously stories always have this kind of weird, like, they always have this type of loophole or kind of lens where you're like, oh, Why wouldn't Mira and Zoe already know about Rumi? As in, do you know what I mean? Like, first of all, I thought to myself, you guys are all girls. I mean, you guys are not seeing her with her arms out once. Give it a rest. You have to. You probably have. So what do you mean you don't know about her patterns? And I guess I don't know. I think it's like most storylines. Again, like I always say, it's the climax. So it's like, oh my gosh, there needs to be some kind of secret. Then they can uncover it, and then they can make up. Simple as. That's basically the premise of a good story. I meant so that there needs to be something, some kind of friction. And I think the storyline is just so funny. But then the thing of the matter is that the whole thing that I've been thinking about when I was obviously talking about, yeah, this is a obsession. It's a hyperfixation. I love it. I needed it. It's just like, oh, they're marketing it to kids. Like, that's what I mean. When I first saw and it said kids, I said, what about this is like, what about it is kid friendly, right? It's just, I always think, obviously, shout out to Miyazaki. I'm always like, why is it that they always want to market it to children? We said, this is not a children's film. There's like so much layers to this. And then first and foremost, it's not a happy ending. It's like how we can go back to something like Lion King. Tell me why you're killing off Simba's dad. Was that necessary? Just to show children at a very fresh age. Show them the meaning of death? I said, oh, no. Like, not yet, though. Do you know what I mean? Not yet. I just think, of course, we think to ourselves, children can be educated, but we don't have to throw them in the deep end, And then the fact of the matter is that this film sets you up with like not a happy ending, and you're like, why? Well, like if it's promoted to children, do you know what I mean? You guys can keep writing the pipeline of happy endings, But then this is the thing. Even again back to children's films. Children's films have been sad anyway. Like, this is the thing. It's crazy. Of course, when we were children, Gen Z that is, of course, children films were they were so sad. And they have been sad. I'm like, what's going on? They haven't stopped doing that. They haven't stopped creating sad kids films. Toy Story, I'm talking to you. But they haven't stopped doing that. And it's just a bit crazy. I'm just like, what is all of this? Why are you doing that? And I just think as a kid, you want like happiness. You want sunshine and rainbows. And also you want like the two main characters to you want them to the happy ever after. And I'm just like, they don't want to promote happy ever afters anymore. But then they do and they don't. Because I mean, like I said before just a moment ago, they didn't used to do them back then that very often, but they don't do them very much now though. Like, it's weird. It makes me feel like, do they do them more than they used to? But then when I think about it, there's so many sad films that obviously came to my head just now, like as in Toy Story, yes. Wall-E, yes. Up, yes. Like, hold on the premise of kids films, what is Up? Do you get what I mean? What is that film? That film is crazy. I don't understand that film, by the way. I don't understand the film. It's very weird. I just mean because there's no sense of really happiness in this film. Or when you look at it, I just mean there's this old guy and his wife's dead and he's alone, and you're like, okay. Like, and then also Monsters Inc. as well. You have all these monsters, and then you had Boo, and then Boo finds Sully, and all Boo really wants is Sully to stay because she's made a friend, and then they don't want her to have that friend. Or even again, when I just mentioned Toy Story, like you have Andy and his toys. He doesn't want to use his toys anymore. I said, whoa. Pump the brakes. So what are you doing? That's not what's supposed to happen. Even in how I always remember Toy Story 3, right? Remember Toy Story 3, and it's like, she don't love you no more. Don't be a big baby. I said, hello. That's rude. That's rude. Toy Story 3 has always stayed with me. And I guess also I think another thing with Toy Story, I meant when somebody loved me, oh no. I don't like that song. Don't play that around me. Now we're on the topic of music, actually. This is what I mean. Good time, good segue. I always like that. When I sit down actually and do episodes and I come up with a word and I'm like, ding, I've got it. But that's why I always think it's easier for me actually to sit down and do them in one go rather than separately. Because usually what happens, sorry, I'm even giving you guys background, but like giving you background, giving you bloopers. But usually what happens is I usually break up my episodes, or usually I leave them, then come back to them. But then I don't feel like that's a good way of doing it, because that means it's what a good way I could describe it is when you have writer's block. And I just mean you're writing, you're in a flow, then it's like the block comes and it's gone. And then that means your ideas are not going to come out the exact same because you've obviously just had the block. So then you're a bit confused. So that's what I mean. That's how I can explain it to you. Because if you guys have realized that before in these episodes, sometimes they're just all over the place because of the way that I do them. But I'm trying to be better and I'm trying to do them in one go because I think it's easier. Just having a long rant to myself for just in one sitting. Do you know what I mean? One sitting, no breaks. No breaks, no takes. But moving on. We was on the work with the music, right? So we want to work with the music. Okay. So because obviously I spoke about the music a bit earlier anyways, but I mentioned Hamilton, right? That soundtrack's 10 out of 10. No skips. And then, right, exactly. K-pop Demon Hunters as well has a stellar soundtrack, right? Basically, my repeats have been Golden, What It Sounds Like, and Free. That's big free for me. That's big free for me. I don't know about you, but that's big free for me. And maybe, sorry. I made my rating. It's done. As in, that's the list. It's just, of course, I would say honorable mentions. I would say Your Idol and probably Takedown. Yeah. That's what I mean. Those are the honorable mentions. You guys probably be like, oh, why not Soda Pop? But it's just like, I like that song, but it's so like, I don't know. Of course, my little Soda Pop, it's like, yeah, like it gives you everything that you need. Like I meant the song does, it's catchy. But I don't know. I think I was alone, I was the ghost, at a gym, just again. But I feel like, yes, because I feel like Golden and like What It Sounds Like, especially What It Sounds Like, exactly. What It Sounds Like is because obviously it's like the, what do you call it? It's the ending bit, right? So I mean, it fills you with so much. Like I think that's probably why. I mean, it probably would have done well. Like that song, yeah, would have hit either way of wherever it was positioned. Because it's at the end, so it's like. That's probably why it's like the final thing. It's almost like you can compare it to, what's it called? We're all in this together. Do you know what I mean? High School Musical. Again, look at me. I'm comparing musicals, but of course, it can compare you to that because it's the big finale, and that's exactly what It Sounds Like is. That's why when What It Sounds Like started playing, I almost cried. They almost had me. They almost had me. They got me. I was like, oh, I was actually so close because I think I just felt it. I think I felt like, I felt the fact that, Rumi was then embracing who she was. She also wasn't letting that woman, what's her name? Celine. Celine's such a hater, but she was coming out of her shell and she was deciding that, well, I'm going to embrace my patterns, whether you like it or not. Like, imagine, you know what it's like? Celine makes me think of like, Gothel keeping Rapunzel up in that towel because obviously she knew that she kidnapped her from her real family just so she could take advantage of her hair. I know it's not the same for Celine actually, Wait, but we don't. But we don't know. Like, actually, that's what I mean. Another thing, actually, for the sequel, we said, let us know more about Celine. Like, what's Celine's deal? Like, what does she do? Because all she wanted to do was be like, no, they can't know about your patterns. They're going to abandon you. I said, what? No. And first of all, Mira and Zoe are like, exactly, they're in a group. They're in a group with Rumi, and then they have their whole little Huntrix. We can do it. Do you know what I mean? Something like, I don't know, the Powerpuff Girls. It's like, we can do it. Huntrix. What's it? What's the thing? What is the thing that they say? Huntrix, proud and strong. We said exactly. They already have that motto. They probably wouldn't leave each other for any kind of reason. But then Celine was like, oh, you just can't. It's weird. It's also what I can compare it to again is also like, what's the word? To Penelope, okay? You guys are probably thinking, hold on, I'm just referencing a bunch of things, but hear me out on this one. Sorry. Penelope, just because they wanted to hide Penelope away because she had that snout nose, and they thought people wouldn't love her. But they were wrong, though. Her parents were wrong. They were like, oh yeah, Penelope, we love you, but we want you to stay indoors. How about that? Do you know what I mean? Stay indoors, don't go anywhere, don't have friends. That's perfectly fine. Like, just don't do any of that. And that's also what Celine is. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, what's Celine's deal? What's her problem? You know? But whatever. She's just like, and then that's what I mean. It's a bunch of programming as well, because then it makes Rumi look at herself and be like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And like, do you know what I mean? I've got problems. Do you get it? Like, it makes her have this whole like idea about herself. She's like, oh, I've got patterns, that means I'm bad. And then the whole fact of the matter is also, which is another thing, that's obviously what Genu says to her. He's like, wow, you're part demon, because it's like she was storing her own kind, and we said that's basically because of Celine. Like, I'm sorry, Celine programmed in her that all demons are bad, so then she was killing her own kind. I said, that's crazy. You can't do that. I said, you can't do that. It's supposed to be a community, okay? And obviously if you did have that, then that's what I mean. You probably wouldn't have been slaughtering them. Do you know what I mean? You would have understood it better. But then again, actually, it wouldn't have been a better life for her anyway, when you think about it. Just because, of course, it wouldn't have been a better life for her, because if she was not sheltered, then she obviously would have been under Guima's control, just like Genu. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's like, okay, it's not that bad, because then, you know, Celine had her sheltered and had her protected. And then, do you know what I mean? And if not, then she would have been prey to those other things. On top of all that, I mean, obviously I was talking about Celine. That was obviously where I just left off, right? I was talking about Celine. I obviously just wanted to have around her because, of course, I was just like, I wanted to have around her, of course, because, of course, like I was saying about, like, Mother Gothel and, like, Penelope and all those type of people who are, like, behind and they hold you back to be your greater self, okay? So, obviously, I was talking about Celine, but then obviously, you can also talk about the other outside pressures, which of course is me wanting to talk about the Mulan trend, right? Ancestors, hear my plea. Like, hello. So, like, talk about that. So that's obviously also what Rumi has to deal with. She has to deal with those pressures. Like, the fact of the matter is, of course, she grew up thinking demons were bad. Or she was basically like, you know, actually the flashback, remember when Celine's like doing her hair, or I don't know what she's doing, but it's like, and then she's singing the song, and you're like to yourself, you were singing that song as a child and you had patterns yourself, and we're like, why was you singing that? Like, don't you know that you also have patterns? We said that is not good. Again, like I was saying, it's just all Celine, but then as I said again, like how I'm talking about right now, is that it's like also the pressures of that, she has to seal the honeymoon, and like she has this responsibility, you know, she has this big responsibility. So it's like, even though she is part demon, she can't also like be comfortable in her skin. She can't like try to I don't know, be on that side or anything like that. Not that that's a good side anyway, because of course that's what I mean. I was thinking to myself, in the whole grand scheme of things, is that she wouldn't have had a better life. This is obviously what I was saying. She wouldn't have had a better life if she was traditionally thrown into that whole demon world, because she would have had the same issues. She would have had the same issues that Jinu had. She would have been under Grima's control, and she wouldn't have been able to also meet Zoe and Mira, and she wouldn't have been able to create a community. She wouldn't have been able to be in this group and have so much fans. You know what I mean? She wouldn't be able to have all of this great stuff, right? So it's like, that's the thing. I get it. But then it's also just like, I think the fact of the matter is that it must be like, it was so hard for her in order to have to slay demons for a living. But anyways, again, the Mulan Trend is great. I think they've been doing it, like, I like that. Exactly, I think the first thing that came out of the Mulan Trend was obviously K-pop Demon Hunters, and then I'm sure it segued into I saw the directors one. I saw the women directors one, which I really, really loved. I really love like female directors, and you know, when I think about film, I feel like women and like female directors is one that is so like, you know, it's so underrated, and I feel like it's one that not a lot of people talk about. And I think because obviously we know a lot of fields are men controlled. It's like, I sometimes even feel like especially with film as well, like film is one of those ones that women do get overshadowed a lot. Like, I know that it's like a lot of careers have men overshadowed in them, like especially like politics, but it's like, honestly, like with even especially film, it's like you just hear of all the great directors, like, I don't know, Christopher Nolan or something, but then if you're gonna say to somebody like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, for example, I guess when I was on my TikTok, my podcast TikTok page, and I was saying to people, oh, like, you guys don't know Zoe Kravitz, and you don't know that Zoe Kravitz also came out as a director, and she did Blink twice. And I was like, how do people not know that? Like, people just have her pegged down as coming in Batman and being Catwoman, and like, do you know what I mean? And I also think with Zoe Kravitz being in Batman, it was her just there to like be hot. Do you get what I mean? Like, this is the thing, like, that's the thing, like, even if we talk about the male gaze for a moment, it's like a lot of films just have women in there for sex appeal. I don't have them in there for anything else. And obviously when you think of Catwoman, you think of Halle Berry's Catwoman, and honestly that film is a film about her. It's necessarily exactly how I feel about, and I've said this before, I think, about how Elvis obviously is the one with Austin Butler, and it's basically just about Elvis. And then you have Priscilla, that is about Priscilla mainly, but you know, Elvis is still, you know, he's still there. He's in the picture, but like he's not the main thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it also feels it feels similar to just how, like, do you get what I mean? How people remember Zoe Kravitz in that way. That's what I felt. But that was one, I say it like it's everybody, but it was literally one person from the comment section, and I was just like, obviously that's not all she's known for. Like, I think maybe sometimes people find it hard anyways, maybe to think of an actress, like, obviously when an actress is acting and then they kind of come away from acting and they come to directing. I think that's also another thing. And that's maybe why people just focus on their acting career. Even though in my head, I sometimes always think about Zoe is that she actually hasn't really. It makes me feel like she hasn't really acted that much. I remember she was in one of the X-Men films like a long time ago, and then she was obviously also in High Fidelity, and she was also and then obviously recent more would have been Catwoman. But honestly, her being in Catwoman is honestly not what I focused on at all in watching that film. But honestly, now we can go all the way back to the Mulan Trend, right? It's just, I really think that exactly, this was my favorite one. I did really like the K-pop Demon Hunters one, because obviously it was just the fact that they're obviously in how the film begins, they obviously explain how there's always been these three women in all the different eras of seeing the Hong Moon and doing that because they need to, and they need to obviously defeat demons. And then obviously that's why Jinu comes up with that whole idea of a K-pop, was it a K-pop demon boy band? You know what I mean? And then of course, remember, that seems really funny because Greenmore laughs at them and he's like, that's hilarious. And then afterwards he realizes in the grand scheme, it's not all that, it's not all that bad, because obviously you have Jinu at the stamp, and the guy, we said the guy is flawless. He's got face and he's got voice. And we said we can't help that. We can't do anything about that. So do you know what I mean? So it's like, he is pretty able to steal their fans. And that's why that's what I mean. You can't hate it. You can't hate the fact that it was a good idea. You literally can't hate it. There's actually nothing you can do. And honestly, that's why that Mulan Trend is also, because then if you also bring it back to Mulan, exactly, like if you bring it back to its origins, you had Mulan who obviously they wanted Mulan to be the perfect wife, but Mulan was not, she was not here for that though. She wanted to like more so show, what's it called? Allegiance to her country. She more wanted to do something more productive. Talk about being a perfect wife and trying to look the part. And they tried to make her look the part. That's the whole thing. That's how Mulan even starts out. You have her there being all dressed up, and then obviously you realize that, oh, this is really not gonna work actually. It's actually not gonna work, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I think the whole idea of thinking people have to be boxed in to like one thing is crazy. Like, the fact of the matter is that, oh, you have to be the perfect wife, but you can be the perfect wife and the savior. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you have to choose between the two. It's actually two things that you can do at once. You know what I mean? And that's obviously that's what makes women so great. Sorry. Shout out to women, for real. And yeah, honestly, exactly. Shout out to women. Lastly, on our agenda for the episode today is live actions. So they had advertised that they wanted a live action K.POP Demon Hunters. Not that anyone asked for it, mind you, but that was what they were saying. And obviously that's how I started out in this episode, because everyone was saying they wanted lots of like new stuff and they wanted sequels, blah blah blah. But a film like K.POP Demon Hunters, like I was saying, is bound to like, you know what I mean? Like, be advertised, and it's like, there'll be loads of merch, there'll be all that kind of stuff, and it being circulated in the way that it is. Like, you see that there's now, I don't know, event stuff that are like in connection to the film. You have what's it called? Twice performing the songs. You also have, I don't know, but like, you just have lots of different stuff. But the live action thing is weird, right? Like, hold on. Like, I know that it's like, I sometimes think like I'm a live action hater. It's not even to say that, sure, when it was advertised, I didn't think it was going to be the worst absolute thing ever. Because first of all, I was thinking to myself, like, this is K.POP Demon Hunters. But then I also, obviously, my main thing always about live action, which is everyone's main thing actually, is that like, you know, stuff are better animated, and they always are. Like, this is the thing, like, even when you say you like a live action, the fact of the matter is that the animated version is better. Like, this is the thing, you can watch the live action, you can be like, oh, it's semi good, but it's just like, it just will never defeat the original. And the original will always hold weight and come out on top. Like, I don't even know, what can I say? I'm trying to find a example and a reference. I was thinking of actually right now, I was thinking of Little Mermaid, right? And not exactly, we're talking about Hailey Bailey's live action of Little Mermaid. And hello, that film was so great. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, in this one instance, that live action was stellar, right? Like, she was it's because with Hailey, I feel like her vocal range is outstanding. So that's just, you know what I mean? That's just that kind of thing. What can you really do about that? She has a great vocal range. And when I listened to part of Your World, I was like, I really can't deny it, but her voice, her version is better than the original. And I was just like, that's crazy, because I've always like, even growing up, I always liked the original. I always really liked I forget what the person who sang the original is. Do you see what I mean? But do you see what I mean? This is what I mean. I was like, I actually forgot what the person is who sings the original of Part of Your World. But anyways, that's the main point, because that's what I'm saying. Hers is so good, it makes you forget the original. So it's not as to say, oh, the live action would have been bad, but it's just that, like, nobody asked for it. And I think obviously what came out was that they're not going ahead with it now, which is obviously what people is like, it's what we wanted. And I do think that it's like with decisions like this, if people can somehow make a difference and they can make sure that live actions don't happen, we're going to. There's so many ones that have been made that, like, shouldn't have been made. This is the thing. And look, I brought up Little Mermaid, and that's what I mean. That's not one of them. But I just mean that there's ones that have been out there that shouldn't be out there. So I'm just like, you know what I mean? Big on us for literally standing firm and being like, in this instance, it's not going to happen. And you know, also, like, if we also right now, for one thing, right now in this argument of live actions, the animation in this film is so good. Like, the way that, like, their faces are super, like, expressive, like, you know, especially when they're doing the eating scene, remember, and they're having the kimbap, and like then they have all these funny faces. Well, like, that is literally like cinema, absolute cinema. But like, obviously that's what we want, and I don't think that you'd be able to capture that in a live action way. Do you get it? It would not hit the same, of them just eating the kimbap and then even cheering, and then the faces being like funny. Like, do you get it? It just wouldn't work. Like, that's the whole thing. And that's just why it's just, I think with live action, sometimes it feels the same way as when we talk about biopics. It's that same argument. It's like, why are you making it like nobody asked for it? But look, it's not always up to us, right? Because people will just continue to make the films that they want to make. And you know what? Sidebar, guys. I went to a film event recently, and it was literally so amazing, because I realized how when I'm seeing like new filmmakers, like people who are making films today, and I'm like, you're the type of filmmaker that like Hollywood needs. Do you know what I mean? The fact that Hollywood doesn't come out with a lot of new stories. Do you get what I mean? Like, K.POP Demon Hunters, right, is obviously, again, a great bit of storytelling. It's something that we haven't seen before. And honestly, when I was at that event, there was loads of films that were literally like that as well. Like, there was like this film that was about noise, and it was like all the noises that we experience as humans. And I was just like, this is why I'm saying, like, why is it that we don't get these stories enough? Like, do you know what I mean? They just want to flood out the same ones all the time, and they don't want us to experience anything new. And that is why, like, obviously, look, like, making me a lead up, that is obviously why a film like K-pop Demon Hunters gets so much like attachment to it, like immediately after it being out for like not too long. Like, you get what I mean? It's come out like a drop in the ocean, and it's made such a impact on people, because it's exactly what people are wanting from cinema. Like, do you know what I mean? This whole idea of three girls who can sing, and because they can sing, that is their weapon against demons. Not even just like the fact that, yes, they have to fight, but their voices are also their weapon as well. Do you know what I mean? They don't have one weapon, they have two. How amazing is that? And then that's also another thing, again with stories, and also again like something like Sinners. And then you'll have a great director like Ryan Coogler, who is just bringing something new, as I said, bringing something new to cinema. And actually, people will know, I have people who follow my TikTok page will know actually that I talk about like the fact of like new stuff in cinema all the time, because I think even when I did a post on there one time, and I was talking about the new Smurfs film as well. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to hate on the Smurfs film, but I was also just like, they've obviously done the Smurfs film so many times as well. And then not even also again, on top of that, not to bash the Fantastic Four, but they've done Fantastic Four before as well. And you know, look, I didn't hate Fantastic Four, and I did say that in my review. I didn't hate it. I really, really loved it, actually. Because I think what I liked about it anyways was like, you know, even though it was new actors, it's old characters. So it's not like, oh, do you know what I mean? It still feels like the same people that you've kind of like grown up learning about. So it's like, it's not, you know, it's not that bad. But then I was just like, why would you make another Fantastic Four? And it's the same with the Smurfs. And I was saying on my page that they marketed that film with just saying that Rihanna was in it, and that was their best way of trying to globalize on it. You know, that was their best way of trying to get people to watch it, which I will not be doing so, by the way. But yeah, and then that even brings me on to like, what was it? Oh yeah, the live action Lilo and Stitch. And like, I'm sure people didn't like that film. I didn't watch it myself. And of course, I always think that it's good to form your own opinion around films. And even when people say that a film is bad, you know, you should still go out there and find out for yourself. It's just the Lilo and Stitch thing never once like appealed to me, right? It never once appealed to me, because obviously the Lilo and Stitch animation is animated version is way better, and that's the thing. Like, we stand very firm in that belief, because it just is better. Like, do you know what I mean? Will they be able to perfect the great scene of what's it? Hound Dog? Will they be able to perfect that again? If they haven't, then I'll pass. You know, like, if they're not able to do that, what am I going to pay money for? And even on top of that as well, I find it so hard of wanting to go and pay money to go and watch films these days, because if you're not good and I have to pay for it, then I'm gonna get annoyed. And that's why, because that's always the thing that stood out to me in cinema a lot. And the fact of the matter is, of like cinema etiquette and cinema manners, whatever. We won't get into that though. But like when people decide to leave, I'm always so stunned and surprised, because I'm generally like, even if I hate a film, I'm generally going to sit in that cinema seat because I actually paid money to be here. And it's true that cinema tickets are not that bad, but they are a bit higher than they used to be. I can't lie. And as somebody who like uses my cinema tickets as like decoration on my wall, I always check, and like the prices, they've changed. But then the fact of the matter is, of course, they do change with age. That's more so the bigger issue, right? They change with age because, of course, you're not spending the amount. You're not spending the amount that you used to, anyways, because you're actually spending way more. But like, exactly. But I just mean, for me, even I guess my cinema ticket is basically like $7.50, but it's still the point. And I think my thing also about, sometimes it's actually not even to do with the money. It's basically to do with the production, to do with like the people working on said film. And I'm just like, if I go to watch something that I know I probably won't like, then it's a waste of time on my part. And it's also a disrespect to the people who made it. So it's just like, we should just not go. And then also, if we want to, we can wait and we can see it at home. That's also the main thing. Like, one film that I would say, using this for this example right now, of this argument, is the Bob Marley film, right? Yeah, the Bob Marley film, the biopic. It was not good. And then, do you know, the only reason why I feel like, because I remember I rated it either like a 4 or something. I can't remember the rating. It might have been actually higher than that. But the only reason I did was actually literally because of the music. But above all, I didn't like it. Like, this is the thing. And sometimes I really hate doing that. Like, being like, oh yeah, I don't like this film. Because I guess when you think of yourself as a film lover or a cinephile, all those terms, you're just like, oh, I hated this film. That's so sad. I didn't want to hate it, but like, you know what I mean? That's what happened. I didn't want to, but that's what happened. But it's just like, I don't know. Again, like I was saying about the filmmaker thing, it's just like, yeah, give us more, give us new. And that's the only way you're going to get ratings. It's literally the only way. Like, it's literally the only way. There's no other way. That's all it is. That's all you have to do, to be honest. And obviously don't push out the agenda of live actions. And don't think because it's live action, it's automatically going to work. Like, I think that is sometimes what maybe their belief is, but I don't really get that though. Like, I don't really get that logic behind it, because I just think sometimes, yes, it just won't work. Like, something, I guess another live action, for example, was also Snow White. I was excited about Snow White when it was being advertised, and then it's like, there was all that stuff about, I guess, Rachel not being pure as snow, whatever. These are all weird, okay? Because I was just like, don't read too deeply into that. Let's focus on bigger issues here. Like, my main thing was the dwarfs being CGI. That was my gripe. But you guys want to talk about the fact that she's not pure as snow. Just say that you're racist. That's what I mean. Like, just say that you're racist and be done with it. Don't use it as a way to say that's why you won't watch the film, because it's not the bigger issue. And then also, I think the other bigger issue was the fact that Gal Gadot kind of pulled Rachel down with her. It's like, that's not fair, because Rachel's actually a good actress. And is it our fault that Gal Gadot cannot act? And actually, Gal Gadot has been in the acting career longer than Rachel has. And like, is that our problem? That she's not good at acting, and that we all now know that she isn't. I mean, what's the big deal? But they wanted to pick on Rachel, who was like they wanted to become Rachel, who was like the new face, right? Even though I don't know if I would declare Rachel also necessarily also a new face, because I guess before Snow White she was in West Side Story and also Songbirds and Snakes. So I was really like, hello, you guys actually know that she's good and she has like a generally like she has a great voice. Like, this is the thing, that's the main thing, and that probably what rides me wrong is because I'm like, I know that like because Rachel's in Snow White, I wouldn't necessarily hate it like so bad, but it's just because of a few minor things that it's just like, it's oh no, it's just like, oh, and I said minor, but I didn't mean that. I said minor, but I don't mean that. They actually are quite huge. And then I think because, again, like I was saying, to do with live action and to do with like, it's a prized possession, like, I don't know. Yeah, like Snow White. You're just like, there's actually no need to touch that, The original Snow White is great, by the way. Like, it's so great. So I don't know what that is about. So I guess, look, in conclusion, I'm so glad that the live action is not happening. If they wanted to, I don't know, like, I think to myself, sure, I don't want a live action. I've just ranted for like, 10 minutes? I don't want it. But if they wanted to maybe like, I don't know, serialize it, or what would be really cool? What would be really, really, really cool? If they kind of like cartoonized it, like kind of thing like that, though. That would be amazing. I said that would be great, like, because remember I mentioned the Powerpuff Girls, right? So I said, exactly, if you guys wanted to do that, I tune in for that 100%, 10 out of 10. And I'm sure a lot of people would as well. Lots of people who, like, I guess the love of animation is the fact that we all grew up on animation, like Milkshake and CBeebies. We said, come on now. Of course, if you give me a series and it's like a cartoon, then I'm not gonna be opposed to it, okay? If you're giving me a live action, it's just like, and it's just all wrong and it doesn't look right, and I don't know, you don't have the right, I don't know. I feel like something like with a live action, they probably wouldn't do the male characters justice. Probably they would not do it. And then I just don't know. There'd just be loads of issues, to be honest. But it's not even to say that I'm sure we could all do it. Like, I mean us though. I don't mean proper film people. I mean people like us. We could all generally probably come up with a great live action, because we would handpick out the actors, and that's why it would practically be really it'd be really simple. But then it's just, again, like I said, I still think sometimes, just again, with the live action thing, is that even when you do handpick the right actors, it sometimes still, again, just doesn't hit the same. Another one, actually, lastly, to leave off, is Cinderella, okay? But not Camila Cabello's Cinderella. Oh, goodness. I mean, Lily James, because that one is stellar. Like, that one is so good. And it's like, it's good to the point where you feel like it matches the animated, and we're just like, how is that even possible? But it actually just does work. They have Lily James in a blue dress, and we said that's actually all we want. Do you get what I mean? Cinderella in the animated version literally had a blue dress. That's one tick. We're like, you already sold us already, because that's just what we wanted, nothing else but that. But that was really it. To wrap up, as I said, no, the live action, yeah, good, hard no. But then, of course, like I said, I think my piece, this is me putting my own bit in there. Of course, like I said, I want a cartoon, and I think that would be really cool. I want to know also, I think before I go, I actually wanted to look at if there is I want to look if there's K-pop Demon Hunter stuff, right? And I just want to see because I can. There's so much cool stuff. You've got the K-pop Demon Hunters plush tiger. He's so cool. You've got a K-pop Demon Hunters anime Huntrix top. This is all on Amazon, by the way. You've got, and I think obviously I'm gonna put them in the description as well, though, to be honest. But anyways, then you've got a Rumi plush as well. You have a K-pop Demon Hunters activity book, but I think, oh my gosh, it's fan made, but that's also great. I said, what? That's also good. And then you also have a Soldier Boys top. Guys, this is great, crazy. This goes crazy. No, but honestly, I would generally buy all of this. Like, I would generally buy all this. This was like when I went to, what is it? Is that a place called Uniqlo? Oh, no. Sorry. I forget that place. You know that one in Camden? Remind me when I went to Camden and I saw a Hello Kitty plush doll in there. And I was so, bro, I was so ready to spend my money in there. I was so ready. And this is obviously what this is what Huntrix is also doing too. I mean, K-pop Demon Hunters, sorry. I think it's all about, like, I think it's all about inner child, actually. And I think it's all about, like, you go into, like, a really sparkly shop and immediately you're transported to when you were young. Like, what was that kind of store for me when I was younger was probably, it was probably the Entertainers and also actually the Disney store, of course. Like, going into the Disney store was crazy. Like, the floor was sparkly and you felt like you were in another world, but generally you were just in a really rinky-dink shopping center. It said it actually wasn't that serious, but it felt like it was. But anyways, thank you so much for listening, and I will be sure to put down some of the stuff that I find on Amazon in the description, and see you in the next one.